Combs' arrest and indictment as federal prosecutors allege Combs is dangerous and poses an ongoing threat to the safety of the community. In court, Combs pleading not guilty to 3 federal counts: sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution.
Sean Combs led and participated in criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice.
In an indictment unsealed, federal prosecutors say since 2008, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct.
As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse.
Combs' arrest at a New York City hotel Monday night comes 6 months after federal authorities raided the Grammy winners' homes in Los Angeles and Miami, revealing what they say they found: firearms, including 3 defaced AR-15s in his bedroom closet, and videos of elaborately produced sex performances with multiple victims, known as freak-offs, according to prosecutors.
Freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant.
An attorney for Combs maintaining his client's innocence.
Mr. Combs is a fighter. He's going to fight this to the end. He's innocent.
The federal case following a string of civil suits, including one filed last week by a member of the girl group Danity Kane, as well as a settlement with singer Cassie, seen in this 2016 surveillance video being physically attacked by Combs. Cassie later filing a civil suit accusing Combs of raping and physically abusing her. The terms of their 2023 settlement were not disclosed. An attorney for Combs telling a judge that Mr. Combs is not a perfect person. These toxic relationships were mutual, adding, "Is it sex trafficking if everyone wants to be there? We don't want the federal government in our bedroom." But federal prosecutors are leaving the door open for even more arrests, saying Combs did not act alone.
I'm not taking anything off the table.
This won't surprise you, but...
Staggering. NBC's Chloe Melas with that report. No, that's not sex trafficking. The way that the lawyer described it, my God, that is incredible.
Yeah, Willie.
Yeah, this is...
So again, cultural implications, yeah, I would guess very big, big headlines in New York.
Yeah, front page news here in New York City. Obviously, a native of New York is Sean Combs, and Chloe just laid it out pretty well. But the details, even if you read deeper through this indictment, again, he's pleaded not guilty here, but are stomach churning, are among the worst you could read about the treatment of women, the drugging of women, and some of the acts that he allegedly had them perform over sustained periods of time. It's truly awful.
Sick. We're going to turn to politics now. We'll keep our eyes on that story. And a moment from a Trump event in Flint, Michigan, where Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders took a swipe at Vice President Kamala Harris. Yep, she did this. She took a swipe at Kamala Harris for not having her own biological children.
Not only do my kids serve as a permanent reminder of what's important, they also keep me humble. You can walk into a room like this where people cheer when you step onto the stage, and you might think for a second that you're kind of special. Then you go home and your kids remind you very quickly you're actually not that big of a deal. And ours are pretty good at it. So my kids keep me humble. Unfortunately, Kamala Harris doesn't have anything keeping her humble.
It's interesting again how she's the other. We're going to mispronounce her name on purpose. We know it's Kamala, but we're going to keep mispronouncing her name, even though everybody now that she is actually running for president, they may have had the excuse before, mispronouncing it, but now everybody knows, and they keep mispronouncing it. I mean, I'll be talking to Trumpers, and they'll go, Kamala. I go, that's not how you pronounce it. It's Kamala, because certainly you hear it every day. And they go back to Kamala.
Yeah,
it's
they laugh
just,
at you.
it's like a tick. They want to say, she's the other. I don't really understand how to say those wild, exotic names. And then again, like as we were saying before, they're mocking and ridiculing people that have blended families. Well, yeah, yes, we have blended families, but I'll tell you what, a heck of a lot of other people have blended families, and they do their best. And from all accounts, including from Doug's, the mother of Doug's children and his former wife, says they all work wonderfully together. And, you know, Kamala is a remarkable presence around the children. The children love her. So I'm not, again, it really does feed into what Tim Walz said in Minnesota. The golden rule is mind your own damn business. Here you have people that are going out mocking and ridiculing her because she doesn't have any biological children. You would think Republicans would learn. Trump Republicans, they just don't learn. They I guess it will take another loss, another year of losing, until they finally figure out they're being snide and angry and hateful. If you're a politician, it doesn't actually help you win elections.
So cruel. Joining the conversation, we have NBC News national affairs analyst and a partner and chief political columnist at Puck, John Hellman, and co-host of MSNBC's The Weekend, Simone Sanders Townsend is with us.
John, a lot to talk about right now, but let's just talk about this. It's not a bug, it's a feature. The meanness. Just the meanness of it. And again, this is just one of a billion examples. I mean, we had Kevin Williamson on with this extraordinary essay on what's happening in Springfield, Ohio. And he just talked about how they know they're lying. Everybody on the ground knows they're lying, but they continue doing it and continue putting people who are here legally in danger for their lives.
Yeah, well, Sarah Huckabee Sanders proving with this performance that those who think that she is a rising star in the Trumpified Republican Party are probably right. I mean, this is what it. You know, you look at her, you look at J.D. Vance, you look at there's so many object lessons, Joe, of the ways in which Trump's corrupted the Republican Party on this front. They are both good examples of this. They're people who clearly know better. And are smarter than they appear on television, and they recognize they think they have a future in whether Donald Trump wins the presidency this year or reclaims the presidency this year, or whether he goes away. This large question of what happens in the post-Trump era. This is a preview of it. J.D. Vance, is just brazenly just gets up and does the thing you've been talking about the last 2 days, gaslights people on the question of what's going on in Springfield, Ohio. Sarah Huckabee Sanders gets up and says, this is what it takes. She says what it takes to be accepted in a party where now, because of Donald Trump, the cruelty is the point. And you know, it's not just obviously the childless cat ladies. It's not just blended families. You know, I sit here as a child of adoption, and my mother passed away a long time ago. I can imagine what my mother would have thought about someone standing up saying that that an adopted mother is not actual. It does not qualify for somehow as motherhood, or that the children of adopted families are somehow not don't measure up in some way to the standard of normalcy and the standard of completeness that Trump and I don't even think they even think about it this way. They just want to crap on people, and there is this culture of we own the libs, we own our enemies, we mock them, we ridicule them. That has become the guiding spirit of the MAGA Republican Party, and you can see it in not just in Donald Trump, but in everyone who aspires to be Trump's successor.
And of course, we see Simone, the Emhoff-Harris blended family, being a real picture of love and togetherness all the time. But I want to get you to zero in on this idea of the other, because it does seem like that is really where the Trump-Vance campaign is focusing right now, not just on the cheap shots against the vice president because of her name or because she doesn't have biological children of her own, but also what is happening in Springfield, these racist attacks looking to drive home a point about immigration, but also just to spark fear and to paint their opponents, Republicans' opponents, everyone from migrants to Democrats, as un-American.
Yeah, it is. When you are able to other someone, you take away their humanity. And if you can have people in this country not seeing someone's humanity, it then lessens maybe the concern about what happens to them. And in my personal opinion, that's exactly what the racist conspiracy theories out of Springfield are actually about. And it doesn't just affect the people in Springfield. It affects Haitian Americans all over this country, immigrants all over this country, black people all over this country. I was really struck by the fact that, you know, the U.S. attorney in Florida who is handling the case of the second assassination attempt on former President Trump's life is a Haitian American immigrant. You know, maybe Donald Trump would say, and J.D. Vance would say, well, those aren't the Haitians that we're talking about. But to be very clear, that is what it's all about, dividing us. And unfortunately, that is frankly, as you know, Joe just said, a feature of the Republican Party apparatus in this current time. It's not every Republican, to be very clear, but it is the culture of the party. And because that is the culture of the party, folks have to make a decision, voters, in this election. They think about if that's something they would like to participate in going forward. And they just might.
I'm gonna do a scorecard to see how this is working. Let's see. Trump, 16. They lost in 17. They lost in 18. They lost in 19. They lost in 20. Heilman, they lost in 21, right? The off-year races, okay.
22
they lost
also.
in 22. Yeah. Then they're losing elections in 23. Okay, that hasn't worked, but maybe on a more national scale, since you know this infotainment came up, and you know really with the rise of Rush Limbaugh in 91, 92, and then Fox News and all that. Let's see, and talk radio, right-wing talk radio. Let's see how that's worked. So that started in 90, 91, 92. So let's see. Republicans lost in 92, the popular vote. They lost the popular vote in 96. They lost the popular vote in 2000. They lost the popular vote in 2008. They lost the popular vote in 2012. They lost the popular vote in 2016. They lost the popular vote in 2020. And really, only time so let's see. So John Heilman is fascinating.
Yeah.
They've lost every year this sort of, hey, we're going to own the libs. Yeah, they've really inspired a shrinking Republican Party, as you've talked about for a very long time. And they 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and the majority of Americans have voted against their presidential candidate every presidential year since 1992. Except for one.
Right.
And they still are clinging to this sort of nasty, snide game of subtraction. Instead of, I can't tell you how many Trump Republicans I've politely said, hey, listen, politics is a game of addition. Find common ground. Put your arm around people. Bring them in. Build your team. Do great things. They don't want to hear it. They want to attack. They want to say, they're not even. Not only do they attack Democrats and attack independents, they'll attack Republicans as being insufficiently hateful. They'll attack single moms. They'll attack people that don't have children. I mean, it's like, why? Instead of trying to figure out how do we make their lives better? How do we bring the community together? It's a losing message. I just don't know how many years I have to sit here and tell my former party, this